Hello, folks. Zorgo here, and I am here today to give you the top 5 tips for a new beginner to City of Heroes in the year 2021. This is my superhero superpower, one of my favorites. And so we're going to list the 5 top things that you need to know, that you need to do as a beginner so that you can play this game to its full potential. I'm not going to go too depth into a lot of the concepts that I'm talking about, but just give you enough information to get you started in progressing your superhero to the height of power. So without any further ado, let's go. The top 5 things that you need to know. Number 1, what to do. Number 2, what's the loot and the money all about? Number 3, tell me about powers and leveling and what I need to know. Number 4, how do enhancements work? And number 5, is how to get around. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, the first thing that we said that we need to learn how to figure out is, what do you do? You've watched my other video on where you can find City of Heroes in 2021. You have downloaded one of the emulation servers and gotten the launcher to work. You've gotten yourself lost in that character creator for the first time. You popped into Atlas Park and you have no idea what to do next. Well, if you're like most people, you're going to see that waypoint up in your navigation bar up here that automatically gives you a contact. And most people will go straight to him and start talking to him. This is what you get if you've done the tutorial. You kind of go through some basic things. You get parked out here in Atlas Park, and then this guy shows up on your navigation target. I still have them on mine too. If you ever want to know where your contacts are, you just go underneath the navigation bar, hit contact. You can scroll down, and just because I'm familiar enough with the game, I know that this guy is Matthew Hibashi. And when you go to that contact list and look down, if you don't see it, or if you don't have the icon, you should see him as a brand new player, as probably your only contact in the game. And so there he is, and notice as soon as I clicked on him, the little waypoint get up. So this is a little bit of what you need to know for starting in City of Heroes on how to find your contacts and your waypoints. And then if you go over to this guy and you click on him, he's going to give you a text message, and you can choose to do his mission and follow through. I skipped it because there are other things that you can do too. If you start with Matthew Hibashi, it's going to take you through the first thing that you can do in City of Heroes, which is starting mission story arc quests. And as you go through his story arc, he's going to send you to new missions, and then you'll run out of ideas. He'll give you new contacts, and then they'll branch off, and you'll have choices of new contacts. And you can just run those missions from level 1 all the way to level 50. And eventually it opens up so much that you've got so many contacts and so many missions open that you're not going to finish them all, and you're going to outlevel all of this content because there's just a lot going on, even though it's a really small game. Now then, that is one way to do it, and you can do that solo, and you can also do that with a group. And if you do those missions, you'll notice that they're kind of newbie. If you've been a veteran of MMOs, you might find them a little bit easier than you're used to. And I don't want you to get bored with this game because there's so much going on. So I wanted to show you another neat little trick you can do with those group missions that come from the contacts. So I'm going to take you over here in Atlas Park. If you look at your map is located underneath the navigation window. Here it is. We'll get through some of those navigation questions as we find this. You notice all these little icons on the map. As you scroll in, using the bar on the right, you can get a lot better visibility. And then you can use the hand and you can move that map around. And then if you hover over all of these waypoints, they tell you what they are. So there's the tailor if you want a costume change. I'll have a video about that in the near future. Got Rick Davies here, he's a contact. Henry is a contact. You can tell by the icons they're consistent throughout the game. But what I'm looking for is one of these stores. I think this is the guy that I want. And if I click on that, oops, it gave me a thumbnail. If I click on that, it gave me a waypoint. And now I can travel over to it. So this vendor is right here in Atlas Park. You can find it by looking at the store. You go over this direction. Oh, it wasn't the right one, but I know where he is. He's right here. So do you see where I am? Oh my gosh, it's Rick It says Rick Davies is the closest point. But you can see that this guy's name is Hero Core Field Analyst. And if you click on him, you get options. I want to change the level at which I fight. And if you click on that, you can make them easier, you can keep them on level, or you can make them more difficult by adding 1, 2, 3, or 4. I suggest starting, if you find the on level is too easy, then go up by 1. If you find the on level is too hard, go down by 1. And you can adjust this by coming back to these Hero Core Field Analysts and changing your level whenever you want to. Once you have a mission, let's go back to Matthew because he'll give me one in here. So we're going to go back to Matthew Habashi again. I can't remember, even though he's really close. If I can't remember, I just click on him. I follow the waypoint up here. It takes me right to him. You've also got the floating yellow one. I click him. I ask about available missions. Just tell me where to go and I'll help those people. I click on that and boom, my waypoint changed and it takes me right to it. Now let's say I have multiple missions. See, I've got combat councils, search the munitions, and take the fight to the Hellions. So I want this to be my active quest. So if I click it and I'm in a group, it's actually going to select task. You see that the icon turns red. And if I was in the first ward, that icon would show red on my navigation bar, showing that that's the mission that I'm going to. So that's the basics of how you run the missions. And like I said, you can do this alone or you can do this with friends, and you can get all the way to max level by starting just with the Habashi. Now then, that's not the only thing to do. See, I didn't do that beginning quest with this character. I skipped it completely. Because there's another way that people like to level, and that would be the sewers. Now, if you want to do the sewers, you're going to need to start off with a group. Doesn't matter how many, but the larger the group, the more experience you get, the faster it goes, the more experience you get. And how do you get to the sewers? This is just open world. You go in, you start fighting. So you look at your map. Now I want to scroll out, and I see right here is a sewer network. I click on it, it gives me a waypoint, and it takes me right to them. If I zone in there, it is filled with just tons and tons of mobs, and as you get deeper, they get larger and larger in level. And if you have enough group, you can go in there and you can destroy, and you can power level, and you get a huge number of levels in a short amount of time. And so that's the way another people like to do it, but I wouldn't say to venture into the sewers alone. I would have a few friends at least to go with me. But the third and the best way for you to be able to get experience when you first come into game is to do something called a trial. And you will need a group to do this, but it can be done with 3 people. I'm sure there are people who would argue that it can be done with 2 as well. But how do you start a trial? Well, first gather up your group, And let's say you want to invite somebody. I don't know who these people are. Hey, you guys are going to be famous. Famous because everybody's watching City of Heroes videos. Well, I am. Those in the know are. So if you click on a person, you can see that I have the option to invite them to my team. And so I can invite them to my team. I can chat with them. And so if you're polite, you want to chat with them, say, hey, do you want to do Death from Below with me? They say, yeah, sure, I need some levels. And then you go down and you invite that person to your team. They're going to show up in the team window over here on the right. And once you've got 2 or 3 people, and up to 8 people, you can do this trial. How do you start the trial? Go to the LFG tab above your chat window. You can see I have a lot of trials available to me because I'm level 26. But the one that should show up on yours as a level 1 or level 2 is Death from Below, right here. You click on it, and then if you want other people to join your queue in the LFG, you just go ahead and press Q, and anybody else looking for Death from Below will join up with you. If you want just your group, before you press Q, you say lock the event to your group, and you'll automatically port right in. It'll give you a dungeon that will give you a lot of experience. Takes about 15 or 20 minutes once you get the hang of it. Even less time. I've been in groups that have run it in 5-7 minutes. Gives you a lot more experience, and it gives you a lot more loot. So that is the way that you start doing content in City of Heroes. Either by doing the group missions, or doing the missions for doing the group missions, the contact missions with a group or solo. Excuse me, I had a brain skip there for a moment. Or you can do the sewers if you get a group of people together, hard to do solo. Or you can do Death from Below. What caused my brain to skip is I just got a tell from somebody. Running DFB, you interested? You want in? I'm going to reply, no, I'm good, but thanks. So always be polite. As you can notice, this is an emulation server. I'm playing on this Thunder Spy server right now, and there seems to be plenty of people around that I could group with. There's a little bit of a chance that these are actually the people from my guild, because these private servers are a little bit lower in numbers. So if you come in expecting that you're going to be able to get groups on demand, that's probably not going to happen. I would gather up 2 or 3 of your real life friends and start the game together, or come in during prime time, hang out here by Miss Liberty under Atlas Park, and you'll see people like this. If you don't get invited to a Death from Below group, invite somebody else to a Death from Below group, or tell them that you're running missions. Let them know that you're new. Assign yourself that little helper icon when you come into the game. Communicate with the group, join the Discord for the emulation server you're in, and you should have no problem getting started in learning with this. Now then, that moves us on to our second tip. And the second tip that we need to know is, what is loot and currency all about in this game? One of the things that struck me when I first started City of Heroes is I noticed, A, there was no auto attack. Everything had to happen from the spell bar here. But the other thing was, there was no gear. Like, what was I going to be going for? I wasn't going to get a new costume piece by it dropping. So what is the loot? I have no money to speak of. Well, it works very differently in City of Heroes. Your loot and your currency are actually come in the form of inspirations, influence, and enhancements. And if you played through the tutorial, and you may have, they touch on this, and you may have figured it out, but I want to go a little bit more in depth to what all of this means. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is your inspirations. Those are the things that pop up here. As a newbie, you've only got 2 or 3 slots, but as you level, you get more, as you can see I have. And what these are like mini buffs that have a short duration that drop as you fight in the game. And everybody forgets about these at first, but they're highly important. They're color coded, so green, I know that's a little health boost. So if I'm taking too much damage, I can help my healer out really quick and save my butt by clicking those. The defenses, one is for physical defense and one is for like spell defense, for lack of a better word. Anything that uses like the powers has a different defense. Red is going to be damage. Yellow is going to be accuracy, hitting more often. I think this is like this yet break free, so if you get held by a mesmerization or some type of hold from a controller mob, then this will break you free. Then you've got the awakens. These are gold. The more you want to always have at least one or two of these on. You can pass these out. These resurrect you if you fall in battle. So don't forget that they're there, because they're really going to help in the battles, especially as you level up. And don't save them. I mean, yeah, you get a really good awaken, you want to have that and save it for the time that you need it. But, I mean, I shouldn't have all these yellows up, and I shouldn't have all these. A neat little trick, if you click on one of these, oops, clicked the wrong way. I clicked. I can combine 3 into whatever I want. So I just took 3 yellows and I turned it into a green. And if I want to convert 3 greens, oops, shouldn't have done that. Oh well. But then I can take the insight, combine into 3. It won't let me do it into another insight, but I can take it into the same level of respite or enrage. I thought you could turn them into more powerful ones. Maybe not. Oh well. But that's another neat little trick with the inspirations. So these drop all the time, every time you fight. Use them as you get them, because there's more on the way. The second thing that you get is influence. And you can check out your influence by going to your menu and your ID here. And it tells me that right now, oh man, I'm low. I only have 74.9 million influence on this character. Won a couple of costume contests. That's always helpful in the cash. Influence is basically the same thing as money. This is your currency. This is what you're going to spend things on. So what do you spend things on? You can buy inspirations. You can buy enhancements. You can buy costume pieces. You can unlock various things with influence. You want to have a lot of good influence in your bank, and you'll get more and more as you go. So that brings us to the third piece of loot, which is enhancement. This is basically the drops of the game. And so you probably noticed right above your spell bars your power bars is the enhancement window. And this gets filled up pretty quickly. I want to go into what enhancements are, because it's one of the things that sets City of Heroes apart from the others. So you open enhancements, and then you go to manage. You click manage and it turns into this full screen. And you see I have distributed enhancements in all of these spots. Now then, where did I get these extra places? Well, this is what you get on your odd number levels. What I mean by that is you've probably already figured out that you can train at Miss Liberty. You right click and you would train to a new level of power. I haven't leveled, so she doesn't give me that option. But that brings you in and you choose your powers. At the even levels, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on, you choose a power. But at the odd number, 3, 5, 7, you actually get to create new slots for your enhancements. So you add them. Now the idea behind this, though, you got to keep this in mind, is you can't max out all of the slots no matter how much you level. So at a certain point you're going to have to start making decisions. I don't think you should worry about that as a newbie, because I can guarantee you're going to respec your character before the end of this game. So don't think that any mistakes that you make now are with you forever. So that being said, so how do they work? They drop when you do dungeons, and then they show up in here. You open up your management and you decide what you want to do. So let's see, I just hope, for example, if you want to see if it fits, you right click or you click and hold the enhancement, and you can see how things highlighted green. That means that any of these things can take one of this type of enhancement. How do you know what enhancements to use? Well, they're color coded again, and they tell you, like if I hover over this one right here, it says increases attack rate. Well, I know that that would be great to, like on my high damage skill that has a slow recharge time, I could throw a couple of those in there and I would get to use that skill more often. Now there are diminishing returns with these. If you, from my understanding, after 3 of any one type, you start to have diminishing returns. There's still to this day a huge argument about whether it's worthy of going beyond the 3 to min-max your character, or to balance it with 3, 3, and 3 if you're going to do a full set. But you just basically want to think about the 3 things that would help that 2 or 3 things that would help that power out, like damage, accuracy. Damage, obviously how much damage you do. Accuracy, how often you hit with that. Recharge, how often it's going to let you use the ability. Toggle skills that are always using endurance, those are great to have one of these. Reduces endurance cost inside of it. And I would suggest as the newbie, just use what drops and throw it into here when you can use it. You're going to start reusing them and replacing them, and by the time you're 50, you're going to understand this system a lot better. Don't stress yourself out that you're building your character wrong at first, because you will always be able to redo it. The other feature you need to understand about enhancements is that you can actually create in this UI a more powerful enhancement. For example, see on Energy Cloak here, that has an endurance reduction. Notice that it's yellow. That means that I'm above its level. If I get too far above its level, it's going to turn red and be useless. See if I've got a red one in here. Like these are useless to me now because they're red. But what you can do is you can combine. And so for example with this one, I have an endurance reduction, and here's another endurance reduction of a similar type here. Okay, let's do it this way. We're going to put this one in here. See, I clicked it up, it highlighted green, I know it can go. Now then, notice that I was looking for one that had the same border as this. I was actually just looking visually. I saw they matched in color. But this one has 2 different borders on it. I'll explain that in a minute. What you just want to make sure for right now is that you are picking one that has basically it's the same type. So, Energy Cloak, I clicked on it, and now it comes up in this combine window. So I can drag this down, look in my enhancement, find another one. It tells me I've got a 90% chance of combining these two. 26 and 24 turns into a 26 point plus. So it effectively acts as a 27. And notice that it went from yellow plus a white to a green, which means now it is optimized in power for me. Your enhancements can be 2 levels above what you are. So if I'm 25, I can have a 27. If I'm 26, I can have up to a 28. So that'd be a 26 plus plus, or a straight 28 would go in this slot. Now, let's talk about these borders again, because not all enhancements are the same. There are 4 tiers of enhancements. The first type that you're going to see in game and on group missions from contacts mostly is the type that you can buy from the vendor right here on the corner. You see there's Ms. Liberty right here. She's a vendor, and you can buy these general enhancements. As you can see, there's no border on them. Anybody can use these. They are perfectly fine for starting out with. You'll have a ton of these drop, and you'll easily learn how to combine and where they go and all of this. Think of this as your trash learning curve for enhancements. But if you do more advanced content, for example, if you decide to do Death from Below with a group, then you're going to be running a more difficult dungeon, for lack of a better term, and you're going to be getting better loot. And what you're going to see in there is enhancements dropping that have these two borders on them. And what that's called is a dual origin enhancement, and it's more powerful than the general ones. You can tell visually, like I can tell that this is a technology and a science just because it's got the gear on one side and a sciencey looking thing on the other side. But also hovering it over, you can say invention and then in parentheses science, comma, technology. So if you're a science origin or a technology origin, you could use this as long as it was yellow, white, or green. Now if you got a red one, but you've also got if you've got a red one like this one, oh, it's still not, you don't necessarily have to throw it away because see, I have a like enhancement right here. So I can click on 26, the 26 plus, I can put that in, and all of a sudden you can see that this red 21 becomes usable. And I've got a 70% chance of combining that. And I did. 26 plus plus. Now it's functioning at the highest ability. Like, I can now, it doesn't get any better than that. From this point on, I'd have to get a 29 or a 30. So that's pretty good. So that's kind of how you manage it. Now then, beyond the dual origin are the single origin. And you can see, for example, right here, this purple, I'll go ahead and put it in because that's a good spot for it. It has a gear all the way around. It's a single origin. It only goes for technology. And since I'm a technology origin, I can use this. Let's see if I've got one that I can combine it with. I sure do. So that yellow, it's almost not useful to me anymore. Now I can put it in the combine, combine. Now I've got a 24 plus. Notice the dual origin won't fit, it won't work. But this other single origin, it fits perfect. Bingo, 26. I'm up to on level. I'm getting a lot more benefit out of that spell now. So that's the basics of how these work. Now I said there were 4 tiers. So you've got your general ones, then you've got your dual origin, then you've got your single origin. Above that is the crafted. And so I'm not going to get into crafting, that's its whole other animal. But keep in mind that even past the single origin, you're going to end up finding some other types of enhancements that are even better. And by the end game, you'll have learned how to min-max these the way that you want so that your powers play the way that you want them and you can do the things that you want. So I hope that helps with that. So that's enhancements. So that goes over our step number 2. What's your currency? Inspirations, influence, enhancements. What do you spend that influence on? You spend that influence, that's the currency, on enhancement. You spend it on inspirations. You spend it on new costume slots. You spend it on new costume pieces. You hold costume contests and give it away to people. Whatever you want to do with that influence. But that's how it's used in the game. Now then, the next thing to cover, I said, like, how do you use your powers? How do you use your leveling? Well, we already touched on that a little bit, but I want to go back and talk just a little bit more about the powers. Again, on your even levels, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that's when you're going to be getting the powers that you can add to your power set. And at odd levels, that's when you can add slots to your enhancements. As you level, though, you need to understand that you are limited to your powers. You're not going to be able to get every power in the power set. You're going to have to start making choices, especially if you go into the third power pool, which is your travel powers. And so I wouldn't worry about it to begin with. Try it out, see if you like it. Eventually you will respec and gain. So just keep that in mind, that eventually you will be able to change all of these things if you feel like you made a mistake and as you learned things about the game. But keep it in the back of your head, like, do I really want this power? Do I really want that power? Do I want this power to have max enhancements, or do I want another one to have max enhancements? That's the thing that you need to know. I believe that covers all 5 of the things that we said that we were going to discuss today. We talked about how to travel. Ooh, no, that's the last thing. There's one more aspect of travel. We have looked at the map. We've talked about how you zoom in and out. We talked about how you make waypoints by clicking on these things, hovering over them to see what they do. But Atlas Park is not the only zone in the game. Eventually those quests are going to take you out into the greater city. And you need to understand, here's the basics of going between zones. When you look at your map, look for the Paragon City monorail. You click on it. It takes you. Now it's just a matter of traveling to that waypoint. You can see the monorail sitting up there. Keep in mind that when you're running around in Atlas Park, you're going to run into stairways and walls and ramps and things like that. Eventually, your travel powers that you can unlock are going to make getting to these places a lot easier. I have done this 1,000 times, so if I were flying, I could have gotten here a lot quicker. But there's the waypoint. There's the subway. I click on it. And now I can start exploring the greater city. It even tells you your levels out here beside it. And so that's basically the starting information on how you get from zone to zone in City of Heroes. So, now we've covered basic travel, using the map, setting waypoints. We've talked about what to do. We've talked about starting with the contacts and the storyline missions, that you can do those solo or with a group. You can gather a group and you can go into the sewers. Or, probably my best suggestion is to gather a group and run the trial Death from Below, which is accessed through the Looking for Group window under the Trials tab. We've also talked about enhancements and what they're used for, how you create and combine them, where they drop. We've talked about influence and what it is used for. We've talked about inspirations and how you use it. We talked about going to the trainers and how you level up your powers and enhancements. So, I think we've covered the 5 basic things that we need to know to really get started in COH, City of Heroes, in 2021 and have a good time. Thank you guys for all of your watching, and like and subscribe if you want to see more City of Heroes content. I'm going to be putting out some videos on costume considerations and anything else that I come up with. And I'm happy to do any suggestions for you. Keep in mind, this is all geared towards the brand new player to City of Heroes in 2021. And with that, thank you very much.